what I wanna, innovate what I'm gonna. You can hate all you wanna, but you're still in your pajama. Now I ain't a prima donna, but I built what I wanna. You can say my vision's wrong, the tune of my song. Broke my thumb, bang into my own drum. Broke my thumb, bang into my own drum. Broke my thumb, bang into my own drum. Who in a clapping, boots I am a strapping, a click click clacking. Hurrah! Bootstrapping in America. Yeah, bootstrapping in America.
Thomas, we're back, my friend. Bootstrapping in America.
Microdesk, Laura Guzman in the house. Thank you for coming out here, Laura. How are you?
Thank you for having me. I'm well, thanks.
I know you love Chicago, right?
I love Chicago.
Yeah.
Now, you've been here before? You're from...
Yeah, I have. We've got an office here. So
gotcha.
This is the first time I visited, though, where there's actually been sun and not snow.
Yeah.
It is a lovely city. When
Yeah.
It has its moments, yes.
When did you get in last night?
A couple days ago, yeah.
A couple days ago.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, it's very strange. You know, like we go from you live in San Francisco area.
I do.
In Chicago, because you have beautiful weather pretty much all year round. We go from air conditioning to heat, and from heat to air conditioning on the same day in different parts of our house. And then we only have like nice weather for what? 20 days a year?
Pretty much.
So enjoy it while you're here.
Oh, I am.
You work for a company called Microdesk. You
I
are
do.
the COO.
Yes.
You guys have offices all around the country. You build, you help to implement technology for architects and engineers.
Correct, as well as construction professionals and anyone who owns and operates a building. So
You're like what they would call kind of like a, I guess you would call a 150 person company kind of like a microcap. That's
Sure.
valuation wise a microcap.
Yeah.
So how do microcap companies like I'm not sure what strategies you're responsible for and all that kind of stuff, but how do you take a microcap company and make it into a bigger company? I mean, do you have that? Do you have the approach, the attitude of like a startup, or do you just tell me what you do?
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's constantly reinventing yourself. So we've been around for 22 years, but I mean, it's evolving constantly, and especially now. So we're at an interesting point. We're always thinking about growth. How can you get better?
Yeah. So how do you grow?
Well, it's finding more projects and more clients to work with. It's expanding to new geographies, and it's hiring more talent when all that work comes in.
It sounds to me like your business is so. I happen to have my stepdad was.
I was wondering if you were going to mention that.
Well, he was an architect, so I grew up in a family where we had to. Where he was.
You had to be able to draw a straight line, or you didn't get.
Where you had to listen to a lot of brilliant man, and you had to listen to a lot of lectures on. He also was a professor somewhere and taught architecture, and he was like. And I got a lot of stories over the years, and I also got to suffer with watch the suffering of how difficult that industry is when there's nobody building, versus when the competition for different jobs and everything else. And I got to witness it firsthand, and it's one of these businesses where, a big macroeconomic picture really plays a role.
It sure does. And, we're at an interesting point now where thankfully there are a lot of cranes in the air, which for us is a beautiful sight to see.
Yeah.
There's a huge fight for talent and finding talent that is up to speed on the technology and the way the industry is progressing. So, I mean, another interesting challenge that you probably witnessed was, you're going from drawing lines to 2D CAD, and now we're in 3D design, and it's a real mind shift. And the way that we design, build, construct, operate, maintain buildings and infrastructure is really changing in an exciting way.
Yeah.
And technology is driving that, but it is tough to keep up.
So where do you see the most cranes in the sky right now?
Oh my goodness.
I'm just curious, like where do you see kind of obviously it's inner city, but kind of where?
Well, I mean, frankly, it is everywhere. So, urbanization is an interesting macro trend that we are seeing in cities all over the world.
Why? Why do you think?
We are positing that there's a shift in the generations, both young and older, who are interested in living in an urban environment where they can live, work, and play. So you're seeing, there's some interesting studies lately about, the shift from suburban locations, even back into actual, center urban areas.
Oh, yeah, of course.
And
Yeah.
how that's changing. So there are, questions about transit-oriented development and how can you develop communities in a sustainable way around your rail lines to make all of this work, but also how do you design up and in a center city to make that function, make them sustainable? Are you integrating things like urban agriculture so that they can actually, even handle their own food supply? A lot of interesting questions.
Oh God, we can't introduce her to Dylan, should we?
No.
We've got greenhouse freaks over here.
Yes.
Oh, well, we'll talk later then.
Yeah.
But I mean, as far as cranes in the sky, we just opened an office in London back in August.
Mm-hmm.
Tons of cranes over there, to the point where they actually have run out. They told us they have to ship them in. There aren't enough to handle the kind of work that's
Does
going
that
on
scare
there.
you? Does that make you feel good?
That's great. That's
Yeah.
great news for
It
me.
scares me. It scares me
Yeah?
only because everything's cyclical. But we're always the contrarians in the room. So you start to worry about well, if there's a lot of cranes in the sky. We like when there's no cranes. Then it means there's going to be cranes. The trend towards, we're seeing it right here in Chicago. Like these big corporations are moving into the city.
Yeah.
McDonald's is about to move 2 blocks from here. And it's just kind of, from a suburban location as their headquarters. Google just moved from a suburban location down to the headquarters. That's a really interesting trend. It's good for your business, like you said.
Yeah.
And it's kind of fun to see because everybody wants to be around the talent.
Yeah, and it's interesting to watch how that's changing neighborhoods. So, I mean, certainly McDonald's moving here will be an interesting trend. GE moving into downtown Boston.
Yeah.
Another recent change, really interesting to watch. In San Francisco, that's sort of an interesting shift, though, where some of them are making decisions to move out of this city. So, I think it's...
San Francisco is a weird place because you have it's just it almost is its own world. Yeah.
It really is. So I shouldn't compare contrast those. They're on their own little planet. But you're right. And I think there are a lot of universities and incubators and groups like that all over. So New York is a great example where they're looking to bring the talent in and a way to nurture it from inception all the way through having those businesses stay there and everyone live and work and play there.
There's a challenge for small companies, like I said, micro-cap companies, where when you get to like 75 to like 250 or 300 employees, you start to hit this growth phase, and you have to decide, how do we get to the next level? Do we want to get to the next level? And if we do, how do we get there? And the mentality doesn't necessarily change, and the scale obviously helps, but then there's a lot of challenges around scale because all of a sudden all your expenses double and everything else.
Yeah.
How do you guys deal with that?
It's a real challenge, right? And we're going through that right now. We're recruiting very heavily, but there are a lot of considerations. Of course, expenses going up.
Who do you recruit? Do you recruit engineers or?
We do. So most everyone on our staff are technical consultants, meaning they all were former architects, engineers, construction industry professionals, and it's an interesting sort of talent to identify and find. So these are special people because they're coming from a technical background, and now we're asking them to be consultants and trainers, and that's
so with the shift in technology, are you seeing them being able to assimilate? I mean, because I always think of an engineer as a person you know better than I.
On a train, walking, trying to keep their balance.
Yeah, well, no, like an engineer, quiet space to themselves, drawing with a pencil on a desk that looks funny from somebody on the outside looking in, and now you're doing more of a. Are you looking for the talent that's more like coders? Are there more?
So we have some of those on staff, but these are people who have an inherent love for technology and how that's being used. So you're techie geeks, but they have the industry experience. So they are architects, they are engineers, they know how to draw straight lines. But it's a really special group of people, and I think to go back to the challenge, finding those people is interesting and difficult. And I think the reason that Microdesk is growing the way it is because our clients are looking for those people too, and they're not easy to find, and so we are supplying that talent for them. The other growth challenge that comes with that is assimilating them. them, to your point. You're growing, your expenses are growing, but you're also building a team and that culture.
Just throw them some food. They'll throw them a couple sandwiches.
Oh yeah, open the cafeteria downstairs and the hammock and the other stuff. It's well, that goes back to competing with the Googles when they move into your neighborhood. Yeah, that's a tough one. Right. It's a tough market to find those right people, and frankly, for Microdesk, I think the other interesting piece is how many people have been with us for so long. So I've been with the company for over 7 years, and I'm actually kind of a short timer in comparison to most of the leadership.
Well, that says a lot about the company. I mean,
it really does. Yeah. And so I think when we're looking for talent, we're looking for people who really we think are going to be part of the family.
So we had a question earlier this morning from one of our viewers, people that watch us, a young gentleman going to school. He already went to a 2-year college locally, and then he had to, come to grips with whether I go to a college that pays, that it's going to cost me a lot of money, or do I stay kind of in state and not have as prestigious a name? Do you look at names as chief operating officer when you're hiring somebody, or is it one of the buckets, but it's not the defining one?
It's definitely not the defining factor. So, it is something we look at. We want to know that they have a degree in architecture or engineering, but, frankly, it's the talent. Are they a personality fit? Are they culture fit?
So you do look at the person also as opposed to just the credentials.
Yeah, and it's actually been interesting, from a recruiting perspective, thinking about how technology has changed the way that we look for people. We're actually piloting all sorts of different scenarios. There's an interesting network based here in Chicago that we're now working with called Hard Hat Hub, and they are basically a LinkedIn that is for this community and matching those folks. So they're already, in the industry, we have a comfort level with that.
We have one called Thick Head Club. Yes.
That was way too easy.
I led right into that. Well, yeah, there's video interviewing. I mean, we're doing a lot of that and using interesting tools to screen for, how do you present yourself, and some of those, the soft things that you can't get on a piece of paper or from a degree.
The video interview, is it better than Tinder or something like that, where sometimes the people show up, they're not the same? I know I see you're married, I'm married, but I mean, do you see that it's the same person that's on the video that comes?
Usually, because you've gotten good at asking the right questions.
Good.
And you can you can swipe away from the ones who show up and clearly didn't prepare or wearing a T-shirt. Sometimes with the wrong team, and that rubs people the wrong way. You got to be smart.
It's the wrong team. So is the right team playing for the championship tonight?
I will not comment on that. I'm an East Coast company. I will shoot myself in the foot for that one.
Most of your customers are large. Well, I shouldn't say it because I don't actually know, but I've just seen a who's who list, and they're like large public and private companies, or organizations. I'm not sure which institutions. Is your business? I'm just curious about the business itself. Does your business depend on public projects? Kind of the expansion on public projects. I mean, are you guys making an infrastructure bet?
We certainly are. I mean,
because I think that's not a bad bet, by the way.
Well, and it's one that we're passionate about because, frankly, it is one we have to address. It's one I hope that it comes up in elections this year and that we actually figure out a way to address. But, frankly, figuring out a way to build smarter, better infrastructure for the future of this nation is incredibly important to us. And a lot of our clients are public entities. So New York, Port Authority of New York and New Jersey is a large client, Mass DOT, Caltrans, so a lot of infrastructure organizations. That said, we aren't completely reliant on those. We have a lot of private organizations in the mix too. So architecture firms like KPF, HOK, and universities.
You don't actually bid for the jobs. You provide the consulting to the architects that bid for the jobs.
So it actually depends. So there are a couple of scenarios. So we work directly with public entities like a Caltrans.
Right.
And we do project bidding in those scenarios. Then there's the other one where we are part of a project team and we're going in with an architecture firm, or the architecture engineering firm, construction firm has won the job, has some requirements or technology goals they want to achieve, don't know how to achieve them, and that's when we come in.
Why do you have all offices in all these different cities?
You know, it's really important to us to be where our clients are. And so we've purposely located and grown in conjunction with where the urban centers are, and all of our offices are in downtown locations. So, you know, those decisions that Google are making, we don't disagree with, and we've always done that. Easy access for training and services, and always a short plane ride away. And that's important because a lot of times we're called a lot of times a situation where we've got a deadline at the end of this week. We need you guys here right now, and we'll be there. So we built the model around that and built the business around
Very
that.
interesting.
Yeah.
And so you like the private model? I mean, you guys like to stay, you want to keep the company private, so
Yeah.
you control it, you don't have to deal with it. Well, it's just easier to deal with your own issues internally.
It sure is. We've got enough going on, so private is
Yeah.
where we'll stay.
Well, it's a really good, let me see how we do in time. We're pretty good. It's great that you came out here. And how big is your Chicago office?
So a little bit smaller, and this is one of our newer offices,
Okay.
but we've got around 10 people in and out of this office now.
Cool.
And yeah, I mean, I love stopping by. It's growing fast. Lots
You
of
get a chance
great
to go
work
all around
on.
the country. You go to all the places, don't you?
I do. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I've got some favorites. I won't.
Oh, you don't have to.
But yeah.
So this is cool because we just learning about Microdesk for the first time, and actually I didn't. I kind of knew about this space, but I didn't know about the companies in the space. So it's a great learning experience, and hopefully you guys can continue to, keep up what you've been doing for the last 22 years.
Yeah.
And hopefully you'll grow with the company and enjoy it.
Yeah.
Thanks so much for coming in.
Oh, thanks for having me.
We do
Yeah.
appreciate it. We'll come back in about 90 seconds. We got Talking with Tom and Tony next. 855-238-2789 or 855-BE-TASTY. Phone lines are open. We'd love to hear from you. We'll be back in 90 seconds. Good job.